Chapter 1: The Garden of Scarlet Roses. The roses were in full bloom that June morning, their deep scarlet petals catching the early sun like velvet flames. They lined the stone path in perfect symmetry, winding through the Grayson family garden, a quiet patch of earth that had blossomed under the patient hands of Margaret's mother for nearly 2 decades. The air was heavy with their fragrance, soft and heady, mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass and the subtle perfume of lavender shrubs swaying near the whitewashed fence. Margaret sat on the front porch, her teacup nestled between slender fingers, the warm china resting gently in her lap. Her long black hair fell over one shoulder in soft waves, catching glints of sunlight like silk thread. She wore a pale blue dress with tiny embroidered flowers along the collar, the kind her mother had stitched by hand. There was a quiet dignity in the way she held herself, not prideful, but calm, reflective. A girl on the cusp of womanhood, with dreams she hadn't yet dared to speak aloud. Behind her, the soft creak of the porch swing swayed with the breeze. Her mother, Ruth Grayson, sat beside her with her own teacup, her grey-streaked hair neatly pinned up, her apron still dusted with flour from the morning's baking. Her eyes, though softened with years, still held a sharp intelligence, the kind that saw more than it said. "Look at those roses," Ruth murmured, her voice low, thoughtful. "They came early this year. Must be the sunlight." Margaret nodded, her gaze following a honeybee as it danced from bloom to bloom. "They look like velvet. Like something you'd find on a dress in a Paris window." Ruth smiled. "Well, maybe someday, one of your dresses will have roses just like these," her mother had said. Margaret smiled, but didn't answer right away. The idea stirred something in her, not just ambition, but longing. Her eyes lingered on the rosebushes again, memorizing their folds, their color. If she ever designed a gown of scarlet silk, she would make the sleeves curve like petals, the hem fall like a bloom at dusk. "I'd like to go to the academy in Springfield," she said softly after a pause. "Miss Evans says they have a textile design program. Not just sewing, pattern making, fashion history. Real design." Her mother didn't answer at first. She sipped her tea, her gaze turned toward the garden. A sparrow chirped in the pear tree. Somewhere down the lane, a bicycle bell rang. "You know how things are, sweetheart," Ruth said finally, not unkindly. "Your father's business isn't what it used to be. And schooling, it's not free. That academy would mean train fare, books, lodging, and all that time away." Margaret's fingers tightened ever so slightly around her cup. "I could work. Save up, maybe just start with 1 year? Your father thinks it might be wiser if you begin at Madame Delacourt's," Ruth interrupted gently. "She's looking for an apprentice. A paid one." A cool breeze stirred the lace curtain in the open window behind them. Margaret didn't speak. She looked down at her tea, now cooling in the cup, and watched a red petal drift to the ground. Chapter 2: Tea and Thread. The next morning, Margaret awoke before the sun. The air was still, and the house held the quiet hush of a place where nothing had yet stirred. She moved softly through the hallway, past the old mirror where her mother used to pin flowers in her hair before Sunday Mass. Her own reflection looked older somehow, not quite a girl anymore, not yet a woman. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled of lemon polish and the faintest trace of cinnamon. Her mother was already there, kneading dough with practiced hands. "You're up early," Ruth said, not looking up. "I left some toast on the stove for you." Margaret nodded, tying her apron over a pale green dress. Her thoughts lingered on the conversation from the evening before. Madame. The name carried weight in their small town, elegance, tradition, and strictness all rolled into one tall, statuesque Frenchwoman who never smiled unless it was for a client with money. "She said I could start next week," Ruth said after a while, wiping her hands on a towel. "And she's willing to teach you not just sewing, but draping, measuring, even fittings." Margaret looked out the window, toward the garden where the roses glowed in the morning light. "I just thought," she trailed off. "I thought I'd have more time." Ruth walked over and touched her daughter's hair. "You have time. Just not all at once." Margaret smiled faintly. She would learn from Madame. She would save every dollar. And one day, maybe, she would wear a dress of her own design in a room full of women who once looked past her. But for now, she was just a girl in a kitchen, sipping tea, in a house filled with the scent of roses and the quiet murmur of a mother's love. That afternoon, the porch was filled with the sound of laughter. Margaret had brought out a tray of lemonade and sugar biscuits, careful to use the porcelain glasses with little roses painted on them, her mother's favorite set, reserved for company. The white lace cloth over the table fluttered in the breeze, and bees droned lazily near the potted geraniums. 3 girls sat around her: Clara Henderson, with her lively curls and unstoppable chatter; Jeanette Avery, more reserved, always scribbling in her notebook; and Lillian Moore, the tallest of them, graceful and golden-haired, who wore gloves even in the summer and swore she was destined for Paris. Their shoes were kicked off under the table, stockings rolled slightly down in the heat, laughter spilling out between sips of lemonade and talk of what came next. "I sent my letter to St. Agnes," Clara announced, her eyes shining. "They have a secretarial course and a dormitory with pink wallpaper. Can you imagine? I'll be living in the city." "You just want to meet a man with a car," Jeanette teased, flipping her notebook shut. "And what's wrong with that?" Clara grinned. "I wouldn't say no to a bic and a boy with a clean haircut." Lillian crossed her legs delicately. "My father says I can study fashion illustration in New York. The Pratt Institute. He knows someone who knows someone in their admissions office." All eyes turned to Margaret, who had been quiet, her fingers gently tracing the rim of her glass. "What about you, Margie?" Jeanette asked, tilting her head. "You were always the best in class with a needle. Surely you're going somewhere special?" Margaret hesitated. The truth curled like thread in her chest, knotted and tight. She looked out at the roses. "I was hoping to study textile design in Springfield," she said softly. "But I'll be working for Madame instead." A beat of silence followed. Even Clara didn't know what to say. "Oh," Lillian said finally, her voice light but cautious. "Well, that's respectable, isn't it?" "It's not forever," Margaret added quickly. "I'll save up. Maybe next year." But the words tasted fragile on her tongue. Jeanette reached over and touched her hand. "You'll be brilliant, wherever you go." They smiled, and the moment passed, replaced by more chatter about trains, catalogues, and dormitory dresses. But Margaret's mind remained in the still space between their laughter, her eyes drawn once more to the roses. They were in full bloom now. Beautiful, but fleeting.